Welcome to the Modern Stoic podcast, where we delve into discussions on Stoicism and how they can relate to personal development, decision making, and resilience, and also mindfulness in the fast paced world of today. I'm your host, Kofi, and this is my Taurus King as a co host, Anoop Johnson.
You.
But thank you guys for the reception you guys have given us. You've shown so much love on Instagram as well as TikTok. I can't say how much I'm thankful for all the love and support that I've gotten from friends, family, and I think that's been really new for us. We didn't think that we would get this much attention, but I think that the way we starting strong. I'll pass it over to Anoop.
No, I mean, of course, appreciate all you guys' support and throughout this start. I think it's a lot for us to just even put ourselves out there to talk about the things that we're talking about.
Mhm.
I think it also goes back to your quote of last week. It's like all about how you start is how you finish. So we
Mhm.
wanted to start strong, and that's what we're going to keep going into episode 2.
Mhm.
So to kick it off, I mean, let's go into how's your week? What's your highlights and lowlights of the week?
Oof, my week it's been pretty chill. I didn't really get into anything crazy this week, but work was really busy. I'm not gonna lie. And in general, life has been busy. With family things. I went to go see my mom a lot this week. And that's always good. Going back and going back to your roots. But also outside of family and work, I've been hanging out with friends and chatting up and catching up with a couple of mentors too. So I have a life coach, full disclosure, and he's great. He actually just sent him my resume recently just to update, and that was one of the highlights this week, just to see all the good feedback that he gave me, but also he obviously had some red marks on my resume, so that was very interesting to see. But also I got to go to the Suns and Nets game. Obviously the Nets lost. I'm not a big Nets fan, but Phoenix is a pretty good team. By halftime, Nets were down by 3. Maybe halfway into the third quarter, they were down by 20. So it was really good to see KD do his thing. He had about like 30 points. And he's a real character, on the court. Really cool guy. And I also got the opportunity to meet Kevin Ray. So he's the play-by-play announcer on the Phoenix Suns. That was really cool. I got to meet Bol. He's huge.
He's huge.
Bro,
Pause. He's huge, though.
but he's huge. Like that's the first time I actually
Yeah.
had to look up at someone. Right?
Yeah. I know it's rare when you're this tall, bro. I get
That's
it.
what I'm
I get
saying.
it.
Like
We
I
normally
know
look
I'm
down.
tall, but he's like 7'3".
Yeah.
So that's the first time I actually broke my neck to look up, brother.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
that's real different for me. But it was really cool. I actually got to step on the court too, take a couple pictures.
Oh.
That was really nice.
That's
So
why that's once in a lifetime. Wait, are you a
um,
Knicks fan? I forget. What team are you?
no, I'm not a Knicks fan, but shout out to the Knicks for doing their thing. But I have to stay real. I can't be a bandwagoner. I've always been a Heat fan.
You're a Heat fan?
I'm really a
Oh.
Dwayne Wade fan.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
so
I mean, that's what makes sense. Last
and,
episode you said that's the guy you want
that's
to
the
talk
one that guy I want on the seat. But it really started with Shaq. I was a Shaq fan first,
to. Yeah.
and in '06, he went over to the Heat,
Mhm.
and that started my journey of liking Dwayne Wade because I saw how he played. Went back and looked at his college highlights, and started following his journey from there on. And I just left Shaq behind.
Mhm.
Still love Shaq. He put up numbers, but D Wade is just a different, more dynamic player in my eyes. And that's really how I like to play ball. It's post moves are great,
Mhm.
but all around player and his moves, his spin moves, just the quickness, his pump fakes, catches everybody, and he tries to emulate MJ and Kobe.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
very
I
similar
hear
play
that.
style.
That makes sense,
Um,
bro.
yeah, absolutely. So I actually had a great week.
I thought you were a Knicks fan because I know Knicks versus Lakers tonight. So I was like,
Oh
I was ready to
no!
chat.
I mean, I'll support the Knicks and I'll
Yeah.
support LeBron anything that he does, but I won't lie and tell you I'm a Knicks fan.
Oh,
But
okay.
Knicks, I'll go see a Knicks game.
Yeah.
I just can't hop on a bandwagon when they start playing good, right? I'm not
Yeah.
that type of guy. I'll stay true to my team.
No,
But
100%.
but how was your week, bro? What's your highlights and lowlights?
This week's been good. This week's definitely been a lot of highlights, a lot of good conversations, more interviews coming in this week,
Okay.
more really positive conversations related to career, business opportunities, connecting with old friends.
Mhm.
I know I mentioned that last episode, I was like thinking about booking a trip for Valentine's Day or whatever,
Yeah.
like do something crazy. But I ended up actually booking 2 other trips.
Wow.
So
All right, where are you going?
I'm going to Barcelona and Ibiza
Oof.
in like late August.
That's a
I might turn that into a big Euro trip tour
Mhm.
because that's only like 6 days I think we're doing.
okay.
So I might
you're
change
gonna
that into
extend it. Dope.
I might do something else because I always go to Europe like every year, so it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like
I
let me
mean,
add on
you
more cities.
You should utilize that whole area.
Exactly,
They're all
exactly.
right next to each other.
Exactly, and
Yeah.
I already been to Barca last year. I went in what was it, July I went?
July. Yeah,
So
yeah,
now
yeah.
we're going again,
Mm.
but this time I'm going to Ibiza for the first time. So I'm
Cool.
really excited to check out Ibiza. I've heard crazy stories. I mean, there's so many songs on it. There's a lot of things.
Oh
So
yeah, and
I'm
you're
curious to
and
see
you're
what goes
and
down
you're
in
single,
Ibiza.
so
Hey, that's
whatever you
also
got.
true too. But then I'm going to then before that though, in March I'm going to it's like my college friends are they're kind of doing like a reunion because
Oh,
one of the
cool.
guys are expecting a child soon,
Hmm.
which is
Oh,
super
dope.
exciting. So I
Congrats.
guess this is like his baby moon maybe
Yeah,
in a weird way
a
with the fellas.
baby moon.
Baby moon with
I
the
get it.
fellas,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess.
yeah.
I
Like
don't
a
know.
baby shower, or like yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. I mean, girls have baby
The
shower. Why can't
bro
guys have a trip
shower.
like that?
Like,
Bro
yeah,
shower.
yeah.
Hey, that sounds really sus. Well, we're gonna have a bros trip, a little getaway before he turns into an actual father. So that's
Oh
exciting.
no, that's real big that you supported him like that. That's cool.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And then in terms
Congrats
of
that age.
lowlights too, lowlights for this week, honestly, it's a highlight and a lowlight, but
Mhm.
definitely this week, just learning how to edit and do everything to get the podcast, the first
Mm,
episode out was
yeah.
a
You
grind.
did a great
I put
job.
like 40 plus hours. I worked a full-time job this week to try to edit,
Sheesh.
learn how to edit,
You did a great
cut
job.
reels, everything.
Yeah.
So, and I do know like some of our production, when you look at like logos and stuff,
Mhm.
everything looks a little off center.
But
If it
no,
does,
you know,
we're just, but my
episode
goal,
one.
what I explained on last week about the non-negotiables and like
Mhm.
not having the negotiation room in your head, just
Yeah,
learn to execute, your trajectory will go far.
absolutely.
This is me leading by example, not just talking it,
Yeah.
doing the walk too.
You
Sometimes you
you
just have
you're
to.
doing a great job.
Sometimes, so that was definitely like a highlight slash low late. And
Mhm.
another one of those, is, I think in general, just putting content out. Like this is the first time a lot of us are seeing us in such different light because
Yeah.
people don't know us in the internet realm.
Yeah,
People
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know the stuff we talk about
At
behind closed
all.
doors.
Yeah,
So this is the first time we're putting that out there
absolutely.
and like having conversations and like really digging into
It
how we think through relationships and how we
uh,
think through our trials and
in
tribulations
life, yeah.
and life in general. And I feel like we do have some
Mhm,
insightful value to offer.
mhm.
It's just now putting that out there at such a large scale and putting ourselves out there as well and
Abs
getting comfortable with that. And it's
Let's
been,
get deep a little bit. How does it make you feel? Like, are is because it can be a bit like nerve-wracking when you're talking by yourself and you don't know how people will receive it, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
and there's so many people on your social media that you don't even think about,
Oh, yeah, of
and you have
course.
relationships with. So being vulnerable and speaking on certain things, how do you feel about that? Like, is it more of a relief? Like, does this feel like therapy for you, or does it feel like, sheesh, like all these people are gonna know my thoughts, and I don't really want that?
Me personally, I've
Mhm.
always just been that friend that always had conversations with people. And I'm talking about the tough conversations
Yeah,
with
yeah,
people. Like
yeah.
like last episode I talked about like poking the bear or whatever we want to call
Absolutely.
it. Like I
Yeah.
just like to challenge the way people think.
Mhm.
I think putting this out there is just another level of growth for me. Just putting myself out
I
there,
like that.
using this platform as an area to discuss real topics that I talk through.
Right.
And then also receive feedback. Like, I mean, a lot of the feedback I got from in DMs and everyone that supported the episode,
Mhm.
majority of it was positive. I didn't really receive anything negative. A lot of people said we articulated our points well, that we made a lot of conventional,
I like that.
good conversations, and that people really valued the insight we gave. And we're obviously going to get better and better each episode. I think
Absolutely.
first episode, I'll admit, definitely more nervous on camera. I was tweaking on
It's our
camera.
first
I
episode,
was looking down all the time, like, because I edited the podcast like 1,000 times, so I watched it
Yeah.
back 100 times. So seeing that and just learning how to get it better and better. And I think each episode we do
Yeah.
get more comfortable and we're able to provide more insight and be ourselves truly on camera. So,
Absolutely, but I think you look good on camera, bro. Like, your skin is glowing. Look
I
look at
mean,
look at the quality. Look at that. Look.
yeah,
Yeah, and
chill,
you
chill,
you
chill.
know the results are showing you in the gym. Like, your
Of
chest
course,
is all puffed out, man.
always, bro.
You look good on camera.
Let me get comfortable real
Um,
quick.
yeah, I know. But Valentine's Day is coming up. It's quickly approaching. And I wanted to ask you a question about navigating through modern dating.
Hmm.
Um, the biggest question I wanted to ask you, because everyone is going through that main character phase, right? People have strong personalities. People are just now figuring out their personalities. So in the dating realm, and you go into a committed relationship, how do you keep that sense of individuality, but not letting it overtake your relationship, and finding common ground? How do you keep it within a relationship, a committed relationship?
Yeah, so I mean, before you enter into any relationship, you were an individual before you came into that relationship for
Absolutely.
however years it is, and depending on how long you've been single or whatever it is, even if you were in
Yeah.
relationships in the past.
Mhm.
I think mainly it just comes down to when you're in that committed relationship, you have to kind of set that boundary
Mhm.
that this is who I was before the relationship.
Yeah.
In the relationship, this is who I am.
I don't think it's bad to say this is my life and this is my
Hmm.
lifestyle. I do think that maybe your partner may say, "Well, I want more time from you,"
Hmm.
or that is taking away from our alone time, right?
Hmm.
And that intimacy you guys want to create. But also, if he or she is going through something right now, and then they're not doing certain hobbies that they used to do, they may have that free time, right? But then if you guys are on the same time and you guys are doing multiple things to keep your time busy and being productive, I think it's a understanding of hey, I have this thing to do, but you guys can structure a schedule and make it work for the two, because she met you when you were busy, right? And vice versa, if you meet her when she's busy, you have to figure some compromise, because obviously you like spending time with each other, so that's the best thing to do.
I think you summed that up way better. What I was trying to get to essentially is that you had your own interests before you came to that relationship.
Absolutely.
Through a relationship, you still should have your own individual identity.
Absolutely.
If you were into photography, if you're into dancing, if you're into whatever,
Yeah.
you should have that partner that supports you in those endeavors. But then also, you should still have your own identity, your own circle of friends. Go be your own individual in this world. Go explore your career. Go explore all these things. You want someone that just contributes to that. So you should also have that boundary set up when you're in a relationship. It's like, hey, like, I do value hanging out with my friends. I do value seeing my family. I do value these interests and hobbies. That doesn't mean I'm not going to stay committed to making this relationship work and putting effort in. It just, can we find a balance between all of it? Because sometimes, like I said last time, I am like that mad scientist personality that like I get super involved in my work.
Yeah.
For an example, this week I think the podcast took me like 40 plus hours of work. If I was in a relationship right now too, it's like,
that
how
would
do
not
you
work out? Yeah.
I don't think it would work out. I think it's just something that I would state like, hey, I'm starting this new project. This is what I'm working on.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna make so much time and commitment for you, but like this is what I'm working on too.
But this is going on
so
the
like,
side, right?
Be transparent. I think it's a better approach to how you do that.
Absolutely. And you'll probably be a bit more creative on your time. Like, what takes you 40 hours, you might figure out how to do it in 20, just because you want to have time for that person. You want to make sure you show that she's a priority, or, and that's the case on her side. She wants to make sure you're a priority. So I think that's a good place to set that boundary. But over time, you guys will, adjust and figure out each other's schedule, or make a schedule together. The next question I wanted to ask you is, when you start dating and you get interested in someone, when is the right time to be exclusive? And if you can define exclusivity to me, like, that would be great as well, because some people may have different definition of being exclusive, right? They may say, well, we're exclusive and we're hanging out and we're dating, I don't want to talk to anyone, and they expect you to do the same. Some people may just be like, well, I'm not talking to anyone, but you can, right? So what does that mean, and what kind of things do you do in that mode, right? And it's not necessarily you're in a relationship. Some people may not be in a relationship. They're just saying, we're going to date each other and that's it. And some people may be like, yeah, this is boyfriend and girlfriend. This is an exclusive thing that we're just together now. And it can be different starting points for certain people. So what does that mean to you?
I think when it comes to being exclusive, it's like, it's not a linear path. It's not like, we talk for 1 month, we get to know each other, and we're like, we go on a couple dates, we're 3 dates in, and it's like, okay, hey, I want to be exclusive. Because sometimes that could look very different. I know people who got engaged 6 months of knowing each other. Like, I see some crazy things in my life.
No, it's Khloe Kardashian.
I don't even know.
She got married in 72 days or something. Like
maybe.
I
said, I know people that just go through life in different ways of how they want to be exclusive and how they want to navigate it. But I think you just come in that relationship intentionally, and it's like, you obviously are sussing each other out. That's legit how the first month goes of dating.
Absolutely.
You're not going to obviously you may have a hunch or an inkling in your first date, this could be the one. And then you want to see that through. And you guys are now asking those tough questions I asked last time. Talking about your non-negotiables, talking about your boundaries, talking about things that really matter to you, your values, your
family differences,
career alignment, whatever it is. It goes beyond just
future.
Yeah, it goes beyond that stuff. And I mean, when you want to then, if you guys align on a lot of those things, then obviously the question of exclusivity starts coming on. Within it could be within a month, it could be within 3 months. There's a 3-month rule that everyone always talks about. It's like, give your relationship 3 months to see if once you get out the honeymoon phase, is it really gonna make it out?
That's crazy.
I mean,
it's funny.
I've seen it go both ways.
Yeah.
I think you have to take it partner to partner on how you want to navigate that level of exclusivity. Because an example with your relationship, she already came in mature, and you're also very mature, to where you guys just seemed so aligned and all your values aligned and everything of that nature. So it was just like, exclusivity didn't even need to really be a formal question, I would assume, but I'll let you touch on that as well.
Yeah.
For me, in my relationships in the past, some relationships that I've had, it's like, is it a discussion or is it not? Sometimes it is a discussion.
Sometimes it just flows well. Like, you don't even have to discuss it. They just know what vibe you're on.
Because we were on the same page. It's like, are you talking to anyone else? Like, that's, I think, the questions you have to ask after a couple of dates. Is like, okay, hey, what are your thoughts on it? And that's usually how I approach it. Within 3-4 dates, I'm just, if we're seeing each other 4 times now, it's like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Are we what is the path to exclusivity? It doesn't mean you have to pressure them and be like, yo, are we boyfriend and girlfriend right now? Like, that's not the whole objective.
Yeah.
It's like, where do you see this going? Do you see this going in the way that you envision it? Or what are your requirements to be exclusive? Sometimes it could be things like, oh, I need your career aligned, or I want to meet your parents, or I want to, or maybe not meet your parents. I think that's kind of crazy before being
Some people like it, very early on.
very early on,
Yeah.
or like meet your friends, meet your
Mhm.
circles. Like these are the things that I require before being exclusive. And it's
Right.
like, okay, cool. Like that's your boundaries, that's your non-negotiables.
Absolutely.
Can I meet that or not? And then you go from there.
Absolutely. No, I agree. And it's funny that you said the thing about the pages, because my partner mentioned something about some people aren't in the same book as you, right? So some people may say, well, we're not on the same page. She mentioned that she wasn't in the same book with other people. Like it was just a complete different thought process,
Hmm.
right? And not only does she feel like we're on the same, in the same book, but she feels like we're on the same page. Right?
Hmm.
And certain things we're not on the same page with, right? And then we find our way to navigate that. And I think that's just patience, right? And just communication, effective communicator. I don't think I've ever met someone that is such good at speaking to people, because I see how she speaks to other people, right? And it translates into our relationship amazingly, right? People love her. People naturally gravitate towards her. She's high energy. She's warm. She's welcoming, and instantly, that's something I liked about her, right? But in our relationship, she's the same way. She's very patient with me as well as I'm patient with her. But it just goes to show what she's putting up with, right? Or what she's willing to put up with. And she's sets her boundaries in a way that's not offensive, right? In the most calmest tone, with the most unoffensive examples, right? And it's just like, how can you receive that in anger? How can you receive that in being impatient with someone? How can you receive that in a malice way, right? So, or a malicious way, I should say. But it's just a form of getting together and figuring out the language that works for both of you guys, right? So it's translating that. And Google Translate is not going to be able to translate something like that, right? So
No,
you can't just go on and just search up, hey,
no.
how do you communicate with someone? So it's just the patience and figuring out, and trials and tribulations, and keep going, and failing and trying again, and
And this all takes time to discover. You don't discover that overnight.
at
That's why I
all.
said, like, within 3, 4 dates, you have an idea of what you can, if you ask the right questions, and
Mhm.
maybe we'll get into an episode alone on that, on like
Yeah.
what are the right questions to ask your partner early
Mhm.
on. But if you guys are aligning on values and having those very intimate conversations,
Yeah.
you start to get a taste of what it can be. And
Absolutely.
obviously, I think I talked about it last time. It's like, don't also idolize that potential.
Yeah.
You have to see it in examples too. So it's kind of what chapter you meet them in life. You might
Absolutely.
meet them through a difficult
Yeah.
chapter. You might meet them through a highlight chapter in
Yeah.
their life. And it's like,
Ooh.
okay, how are they navigating the highlight? Are they still staying grounded, or too much in la la land and not coming back to reality and being like, this is where we are today,
Yeah.
and navigating that?
Yeah. And to the point that you mentioned that they may be on a high, um, kind of a segue into our next question, but just pausing really quick. And I wanted to ask you, if you meet someone and they're on their high and you may be at your low point,
Mhm.
right? How do you navigate through that? Some people may not accept that. Some people may become a little jealous. Some people may not receive that well. So it's really not a good place to start a relationship, right?
Mhm.
So do you think that's a way to start a healthy relationship? How do you talk about that to your partner, right? Or your potential partner? You can't deny your emotions, right?
Mhm.
And some people may not be real about it, but
Mhm.
how do you come off in a way that doesn't sound crazy?
Mhm. I mean, it really depends on your role in the relationship. I think it
Absolutely.
comes down as that as well. I
Yeah.
mean, I can only speak right now from the male perspective is what I'll take first. So I'll take it from the male's perspective. If
Right.
you're going through that low light of life right now, it's just how you react to the situation.
Right.
Yes, you'll have insecurities. Yes, you'll have certain conflicts going on in your
Hmm.
life. Yes, I understand life's tough. I understand all of that.
Right.
But it's how you respond to the tough situations of life. Do you let
Mm.
that project into your relationship? Do you let that project into the people around you, even your work, your flow? Like,
Right.
I know a lot of people when they're under pressure, a lot of people crumble,
Break, right?
unfortunately.
Yeah,
When you
yeah,
break, you see it. And
yeah.
then you see the people who have been tested more in life who are just resilient through those
Oof.
times.
Easy.
I know
You
for
can
me,
identify those people in the room easily.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, and it's not like I look down at them or
Yeah,
anything like that.
absolutely.
It's just like, yo, they're just going through a tough time in their
Right.
life right now.
Empathy through all that. Yeah.
Hey, be empathetic, understand what they're going through, and try to help them as well. But going back to the how you navigate that in a relationship,
Mm.
I think you just don't let that insecurity show. I think you have to just, if you want to bring it up to your partner, you just have to phrase it in a way that's like, hey, I'm going through this,
Mhm.
but I'm confident this is how I'm gonna resolve it,
Right.
and I'm gonna resolve it by this time.
Right.
Or maybe if you don't know the time, maybe you don't know the solution fully,
Mhm.
be like, this is what I'm gonna try to do. I feel like if you approach the situation, you're like completely lost, and you kind of show your insecurities and let a lot of your
Yeah.
lack of confidence show. I feel like then, it makes it tricky in a relationship.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, so
Makes
this
it awkward.
individual. Well, I also think this individual becomes in questions like, oh, they don't know how to solve their own problems.
Right, right.
Like, how are they gonna help me when I have a problem? And you start to ask those questions.
Right.
And I don't think your partner's trying to be harmful in asking those questions.
Mhm.
I think it's just biologically you just start questioning things.
Yeah. You start reading into things that maybe not.
Exactly. And it's just tendency of nature.
Matter.
You don't mean to do it intentionally or in a malice way or anything of that
Right,
nature,
right.
but it just comes up that way.
Mhm.
And it's how do you navigate that?
Yeah.
I think for me personally, I would always want to provide reassurance and confidence, like in
Absolutely.
anything I do. And that if I was going through that tough time, I just know me as
You
an
want
individual.
support. Yeah. Right?
Exactly. And I just know me as an individual. I'm just a relentless hard worker.
Mhm.
I will keep pushing through it.
Absolutely.
But let's say
I
if you're
believe
not
that.
that
I've
hard
seen
worker.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's say if you're not that hard worker and
Yeah.
you do tend to crumble it, do you know the right questions to ask to get you out of this or the right
Mhm.
places to look?
And what if you don't? Like, what if you need help? What
If you need help, you can go to your partner. You should
Yeah.
be in a comfortable enough relationship with your partner to have
Right.
those discussions to
Mhm.
where they shouldn't judge you in a way that's like putting you down.
Absolutely.
I know the questions might be in the back of their mind, but if a partner is the right partner for you, they will help you out. They
Right.
will be like, hey, maybe you should try therapy. Maybe you should try this.
Right.
Maybe you should try talking to my friend, Anoop, or something like that, or Kofi,
If we have trouble sending her straight.
Yeah. Send it to me.
I'm
We'll get
sending
you. We'll
her-
get you right.
I'm like, Yo, therapist and noob got you.
Yeah, exactly. Like PhD in this. But no, I'm being serious. Like,
That's
have
funny.
conversations with people. I've always said the
Yeah.
power of conversations that you have with people are insane
Mhm.
because you might have a problem, but you never talked about it. You
Yeah,
internalized this.
internalize it the whole time.
You
You
have an
have
internal-
conversations with yourself. Or you're on
Exactly.
social media looking at these quotes that don't help you.
Oh yeah.
Like, yeah, and then that's a good segue into our next topic, like how we're talking about maybe relationships because Valentine's is days coming up, and I wanted to ask you about private versus public relationship,
Mhm.
and we're in a day and age of social media, and everyone wants to either showcase their relationship, or people are more drawn away from social media and don't want anyone to either know their partner or put their partner out there for criticism, right?
I'm just thinking, I'm like smiling and laughing because I'm thinking we're in the era of the soft launch era where
Yeah.
people just like to be like holding their
Oh.
man's hands. You just see rings and whatever, and you're like,
Yeah.
soft launch.
It's funny because both guys and girls do it too. Like you'll
Yeah.
see a guy post his girl and then she's turned around. Guys do it. It's funny. I'm just watching. It's like, yo, just show your partner. Like it doesn't matter.
No, but this is the thing though. It comes
What?
down to versus the private versus public. Do you
Mhm.
want that energy out there? Because
Okay.
I think my stance
But
on it,
what's there to hide?
what's there to hide? I think when it comes to dating and stuff
Mhm.
like that, me personally, I actually do like to keep that part of my
Private,
life
right?
private until like there's a ring on the finger, honestly.
Right, okay.
Because like
Sheesh.
maybe
I
my
don't know how
perspective will
fast you want to
change.
get married.
No, definitely not that quick. But I think it's all about perspective because at the end of the day, some people do like to publicize those things. But
Right.
then the thing is, when you put it on social media, people chat, people
That's
talk,
true.
and it's
They
like
might
you know
know.
your partner, and they're like, "Did you know that they did this, and that in the past?" And it might be like 10 years ago, and it's like, why are we bringing
Wow.
stuff from 10 years ago? Unless it's
Yeah.
super bad, obviously then
Yeah,
air
yeah.
it. But if it's something like 10 years ago, they talked to this person that might be someone that you know, whatever. I know me being in my community of people
Yeah,
chat.
people chat.
So you start to hear things, but it's like, do you care for that? Do you want that negative attention to enter your relationship? Do you want people to judge you? Do you want people to say these things and have it internalized and weigh down on you? It depends
Right.
on you as a person. If you have insecurities, will your insecurities start to show when you hear
Right.
these things? Will you?
Will it affect your relationship, and will it put a dent in what you guys are trying to build, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think navigating that for me personally, I think it's good to keep things private sometimes. I think
Yeah.
it's good to, but I also wouldn't want to hide my girl from the world. I'm not like on an Adonis beat.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
I'm not
Are you a
on
Drake?
Adonis beat. Yeah, I know on Drizzy stuff. What's the quote? Hide the girl from the, or
No, it's hide the kid from the world and show something like that. I
the
don't
world
know.
from the kid.
Yeah,
Basically,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
no. I mean, I want my girl to be there physically with me when meeting parents, friends. I want my girl to incorporate in my friend groups and stuff like that. So I'm not hiding her.
Yeah.
It's just putting it on social media. You're then doing the whole keeping up with the Joneses, looking left
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Everybody's trying to flex on social media. We know how it works, the game,
Yeah. But I also think, like, me personally, I really don't go on social media anymore. Like, I'll just post something and then, like,
Yeah. This is
like-
your first post and you reposted the real, bro.
yeah. Bro, it took me like 2 hours to like repost that. But then,
My son asked me, how do I do this?
yeah,
I
no,
don't know how to
literally,
do
I
this.
feel like I'm becoming like a dinosaur, bro. Like, I just
Hey,
don't.
man.
I
At least
don't
you know.
use-
I'm kidding.
I don't use it as much anymore. So it's like I'll post something and dip. or like if friends send me something, it'll take me like a week to get back because I use it more on a utility thing. Like if I need to search something up,
Of course.
TikTok is like a search engine for me.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
like those type of things. So it's really like, if I get the chance to post something, I'm like, all right, like whatever. But that may not be my partner's case, right? They may be all up in social media and taking every comment as scrutiny and internalizing that. So I definitely get your point on that.
Can I interrupt for a second? Let me
Yeah,
flip the
absolutely.
question
Go
to
ahead.
you. So I know you don't use social media, so I feel like your opinion on this is gonna be like, yeah, I don't use social
I
media.
already know what you were gonna ask.
But what if your girl was really big into social media?
Ooh, I already
and
knew you were
that
gonna ask
you're just not that present. Like you have like two posts, and I made you repost the reel. That's your third post on
This is my
Instagram.
third post. Like
in
this
like
podcast is my third.
2018 or something is your last post from like college.
That's crazy.
So it's like
Yeah.
if your girl was big into social media and like she wanted to post you and stuff like that, and I know you like to live like a low key life, would you be okay with that? Even though you're not living a low key life, we are in a podcast now. But how'd you feel about that?
And she posted me like on her story and like
yeah, she's posting you. Ain't no soft launch. You there, brother?
I'm there, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, I probably wouldn't have a problem with it if it's like, all right, we're in the space and we're private and we're living this life. But if she's doing it on a flex level, I personally wouldn't like that because that's not how I live my life. I don't do anything to flex. I'm very quiet and private, right? I don't want to have that image. But if it was to do that, then I would be like, all right, well, I don't want to portray myself as this. I would mention it. But if she continues to do it, then that's her social media, right? I can't control that. But it would be something I would voice and be like, I'm uncomfortable with that. But I'm not going to tell her to take anything off social media, right?
Would you be doing any of the trends? You know how there's
the dances?
TikTok dance trends with their couples?
God,
yo, I can see you doing it, bro. You goofy. So.
But the thing is, like, I may actually be coined into doing that because if that's something that she's really into,
I mean, yeah, you are a lover. You are a lover. You said you're supporting.
Happy wife, happy life, bro. So it's like
true.
I might get cooned into doing that. I'm not gonna lie. But if it's something I'm not cool with, if it's a certain dance, I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
like, it has to be something I'm actually comfortable with. But I might end up doing that dance. But I don't really care what people have to say. Like I'm not gonna read any comments. And if I do, I'm not even gonna focus on the negative ones. I'm just gonna go through all.
Don't worry, bro. We'll be all gassing in the comments. That's my dog.
Yeah, hold me down, bro. I can't have anyone like laughing at me. But
of course.
Yeah, I don't think I have a huge problem with that. If we both have a huge social media presence, it would be more if we're comfortable with our partners being talked about. That for sure.
You talking about like us? Or you talking about or like you
just
and your
in general?
partner?
Like if you have a partner, and you guys both have a huge social media presence. Obviously, there's going to be people that think your partner's attractive, and whatever the case may be,
yeah.
or the content they're posting may not be desirable for most people to hear, right? So it's navigating through that. How do you come to a place where you're more comfortable with people shooting a shot at your partner or not shooting a shot? They're maybe not sending death threats. That's pretty extreme. But
just nasty comments.
There's nasty comments to your partner, and then you have to see that and deal with it, and you see how it's affecting him or her, and you don't like what it's doing to them, and it's turning them into a person that like needs to do certain things to upkeep with their image and their brand, right? So how do you navigate through that? And it's kind of like flipping the question and asking you, how would you deal with that as having a partner like that?
Well, I mean, to answer your question, though, you said, like, what if my partner is getting DMs? What if my partner is getting those comments? I'll start with the DMs. Like, obviously, when you put yourself out on social media, depending on how you put yourself out, do you present yourself neat, wholesome? Do you present yourself out there if you're a model?
People are smooth. Like, like they send a crazy gift that you can't search with a regular text. Like,
no,
like they might have...
talking from experience.
No. They might send, like, the Steph Curry 3, like...
Oh, yo, that's my classic.
Like
also ball over there.
Something there, like, they might send someone that's, like, sliding really into the DM.
I mean, I think it comes down to you navigating your insecurities, though. I think, again, because at the end of the day,
people are...
If you're dating a girl, your girl's or partner in general is beautiful, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So your partner is beautiful. They're going to get attention and energy and whatever,
And vice versa.
But it just comes down to how secure you feel in that relationship. If your partner has reassured you so much from a trust standpoint that you're good, like, I'm committed to you.
Yeah.
I only like you. I only care about you. All of that jazz.
Yeah.
You really shouldn't care who's in the DMs, because at the end of the day, your partner's putting their head on your chest.
Yeah.
But either way, at night, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good. What is there to stress about?
Yeah, you don't even have to think in that way. We're all human, though. It might seep through the cracks, and it might.
Exactly, and I think if you
At
go
night, you
to
might
the
have nightmares or something. I don't know how
exactly, yeah,
people
you
do it.
might.
I don't have nightmares, but some people might have nightmares, and some people might have anxiety during the day of like, hey,
Mhm,
what are you doing, or why are you on your phone so much? Like,
mhm.
it speaks to the human part of everyone. So if it does affect you, how do you get to a space where it's like, hey, I don't feel comfortable. Like, how do you get reassurance, that your partner is dealing with that correctly?
Are we talking about now the negative sides of it, like it's
Yeah,
getting those nasty comments? I think
absolutely.
you as a partner, you just have to show up and be
You
like
support.
support them, but then also I think you as a partner could also voice it. Maybe if you see it's becoming unhealthy to the
Right.
relationship or even to them as an individual, like they're
Mm.
getting just really bad comments and it really depends. Is this part of their personal brand or
Yeah,
their career? Like if they're
absolutely.
modeling or something like that, like they have to repost, they have to do these
Yeah,
things.
and models typically look good.
Exactly, and they have to repost, they have to be in this
Yeah,
industry where they have to be have a large presence on social media.
yeah.
And then at that point, you kind of navigate that road together and be like, "Hey, I understand you're going through a tough time. Either you could offer solutions,
Mm,
whether it's like, maybe turning off comments, maybe,
yeah,
maybe not reading into your DMs and stuff. Maybe it's also just being there for them. Maybe
yeah,
just listening. Maybe that's all it is. You don't always have to come to a solution as
yeah.
well. As long as you reassure them through that journey and just
Mhm.
be really there for them truly.
All right, so in relationships, I know we're on modern dating and things, but I really want to know about your past relationships, right? I want to hear all the tea,
All the tea is
all the
crazy.
tea. No, I'm joking, but I'm not gonna go too much into depth with your
Mhm.
past relationships because I don't know who's listening right now. You might have some exes
My
on
ops are
there,
out there.
like
My
listening to this.
oppositions.
But I really wanted to go into some things about accountability, right? So, what are some things that you are guilty of in a relationship? Like, what are some bad things you've done in the past, maybe intentionally or unintentionally, right?
Mhm.
And that you've realized.
I yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, continue. Go
No,
ahead.
no. I think taking inventory, like I think always after every relationship you go through, you should take an inventory
Yeah,
checklist of like how did it make you feel, what you like, what you didn't like,
yeah,
things you learn from and grow. That's how you grow in relationships and grow in your own life too.
yeah.
And I think some of the things that I've always looked back on in more my relationships is like sometimes I find myself, and I find even friends of friends doing this too. When you get in that new relationship, you're so excited.
Yeah.
All you want to do is spend all your time with them, and that's good. But I think also sometimes
It's
you,
fun.
yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's so much fun. But I think that sometimes you also then tend to isolate from your friends. And I think
Oh
isolating from
yeah,
your friends is something that always is. And like, me being the single guy in the friend group, I text any of my friends, everyone's like, oh, I'm
yeah,
on wifey duty. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to disturb you,
yeah.
I'll let you
Especially
be.
if you're the friend that reaches out to everyone and you go silent.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Exactly. So it's just like for me personally, I've learned now in relationships going forward and stuff, like, I want to integrate them into my friend group because
Right.
these are the people that I surround myself with. You're the
Yeah,
cliche saying, you're the sum of the five people you hang out with or whatever.
absolutely.
So in that same scenario, I would want my partner to also be in that circle, meet my people, and be like,
Right.
"Yo, these are my core people.
Mhm.
These are who I vibe with." So they also get a better understanding of who I am, my role in that friend group too, and also in general, they also might find that very appealing. They're
Yeah.
like, "Yo, a lot of people respect this guy, or a lot of people. He has really good people around him. He has a really good head on his shoulder, and he's such like a." And his circle around him is like such good people. It's like
Totally.
another appealing factor of who this person is, and
Mhm.
it really shows that.
But it's also giving her a sense of security and understanding that, hey, I'm integrating you into my life, and this is the people that I know are going to be around.
Mhm.
And once you feel comfortable in that friend group, then you can come over all the time. You'll know who I'm hanging out with, right? And you know about the things that we're saying. Obviously, there's bro talk, right? There's some things that we won't say in front of our ladies,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
um, there's a sense of community in that way.
I think the last thing I'll say on that, it's
Yeah.
also for me, a lot of my friends, what I've learned is there's such a big village that supports me. And at time I've been
Mm,
symptom of it, even not outside of relationships, I
right.
forget who that village is that supports me.
Yeah.
And I think showing that to my partner, it's like, hey, I do have this huge support system. And
Right.
these people who support me are also going to end up supporting you. Like
Mm,
I want them to also see that as well.
right.
And that's why I want to integrate them into the friend group and show them like these are the people I'm
These are the
around.
people. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly.
I'll steal the mic for a second and say that I know I'm guilty for disappearing when I'm in a relationship, just for maybe
Oh, I
for
know. No, I'm kidding.
maybe for the first
We'll
like
air it out right here.
month or two. I'm like I'm gone because I'm really into what I'm doing in the moment. But it also has made me step back and realize that um, sometimes spread myself thin, where I'm trying to keep up with so many relationships that if I didn't keep up with, it would naturally dissolve, right? And sometimes you have a role in the friendship to be the one that reaches out, but I think I'm in the stage of my life where I need balanced friendships, right? You reach out to me all the time, hey bro, how you doing? And that has kept our friendship at a good place, right? And I'll eventually reach out when I'm on my phone, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm terrible at using my phone.
Oh,
But
I know. Well, we can air it all
yeah,
out. I'm kidding.
yeah.
You feel
But
the tension?
so not only am I guilty for something, but
Yeah.
those things have taught me things in a relationship, So going back to another question that I had is, how do you navigate losing your alone time in a relationship, right?
Mhm.
Because we mentioned a little earlier that you have a schedule. You guys are both going through these motions of fitting each other in a schedule. But how do you navigate? How have you navigated that in the past,
Mhm.
right? Can you give me some examples of actively trying to gain your alone time back, or feeling like you're at a place where you have no alone time?
Mhm.
Either one. You can give me examples.
I think that in recent times, I've definitely stretched that boundary of my alone time. I know
Yeah.
I value my alone time. I know I value the time I spend in the gym, the time
Mhm.
I spent studying, researching either topics for the podcast or furthering my career.
Right.
So I do value my alone time. And in the past, I've stretched that. I've been like, oh, we can be on the phone while I'm working on XYZ, and it's cool. Like if it's something more casual, it's
Yeah.
totally fine. But then I realized I also need just that focus time to be alone, to be a Noob
Yeah.
Johnson at the end of the day,
Absolutely.
and just work on the things that I'm passionate about. And navigating that, I've learned going forward is just setting that hard boundary of, this is what I'm working on. I just need to be, I think being communicative, being effectively communicative about how you go to set the boundary on your alone time, being like to my partner, hey, I'm working for the next 3 hours.
Mhm.
I love you, appreciate you.
Yeah.
I'll text you back in 3 hours. If anything emergency,
That's
I
good,
have you on
though.
my
That's a
D&D
great
list.
communication skill.
Exactly. I have you on my D&D list. Like, you're gonna still be able to reach me. I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
going
yeah.
ghost.
That's a riz. That's riz, bro. Like, that's great.
I mean, I've always said be an effective communicator because I feel like so many
Yeah.
people are in our generation or any generation. It doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
yeah.
It's not even age or gender
But
specific.
that's like going back to like T-Mobile, like what is it, top 5 or fave 5?
Oh yeah,
You have like your fave 5 who you could like
yeah.
text unlimitedly, like but having them on like your D&D list of like
Approved,
you
yeah,
can
yeah.
still go through. That's riz. I
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
I mean, because I think at the end of the day, like, if you want to set up that boundary, that's cool. But they're still your partner at the end of the
Yeah,
day. If
yeah,
they need to
absolutely.
reach you, they need to reach you.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can't
yeah.
just go ghost unless it's something that you have to and you communicate that up front. It's like I have to go ghost for the next 5 hours because I'm
Yeah.
in a meetings or whatever. Because
Yeah.
some people are doctors, some people are
Yeah. But if
working
you
with
just
their
go
hands.
ghost,
They
that's
just
weird.
can't be on their phone. Period.
Yeah.
So it's like you will not communicate me, but if there's an emergency, call the hospital or whatever, and
Yeah.
you can reach me through this line. Like I
Right.
think setting up those appropriate communication channels to then
Absolutely.
have your alone time, but then have a way for them to be able to reach you. It reassures them completely.
That's a really good one. And I feel like in the past relationships, a lot of my partners have asked for that reassurance, and I didn't understand. I would sit from a place like, "Hey, I'm working. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm working 5 hours. I'm in class from this time to this time, and you should know,
Mhm.
right?" But I didn't realize what they're asking for is that reassurance, that affirmation, right?
Mhm.
Of saying, "Hey, I'm really busy today. I'm not going to be on my phone for the next 4 hours. Sorry if I don't, reach out as much today."
Mhm.
And that one line or that 1 second you use to text them will avoid any arguments, will avoid any weird energy, or will make them feel like you care, right?
Mhm.
And I didn't realize that that's what was happening. It took me a really long time to get there. A lot of arguments. I'm not gonna lie.
Honestly, you know what's
Yeah.
so funny is it's such an easy thing to do that takes
Yeah.
10 seconds of efforts that
Mhm.
saves you from months of
Yeah,
headaches. If you just
absolutely.
learn just to send that text,
Mhm.
it will clear you.
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it because I've heard so many people get into so many fights over this.
So many arguments, and you're
Communicate,
good.
you good. You'll be
Yeah.
good. If they understand you, they trust you,
Yeah.
they'll be like, I respect you.
But
You're
also, some people are just really busy, right? Like me and you, we keep ourselves busy all the time. We have
Yeah.
full schedules, so it's easy for that to like skip our brains. But taking the time, even on a busy schedule, to let them know, lets them know that they're a priority, and you just want to make sure they know that they're a priority. For sure.
And it's a muscle you work on too. And I think also
Mhm.
comes down to like you valuing them. If you value them and you care about them that much, you will take
You
that
will
extra
do-
second to just send that text. I think
Abso-
that's what it comes down to.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I saw that there was this viral clip going around, and it came from Shaq.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask how you feel about it. Pull up the clip, or actually maybe some.
Yeah, I'll just read off the quote from the clip.
Yeah.
So Shaq said on his podcast that Shaq says man should never open up to a woman. Whenever something goes down, they're just gonna throw it back into your face. So essentially you shouldn't be to recap what he said, essentially you shouldn't be vulnerable to your partner to the full extent.
Yeah.
And that you never should show your head down. You should always keep your head up, chest up through any situations you're going through.
You're trying to get us canceled early on. It's episode 2, bro. Like,
No, I think it's a very interesting topic. I think
Yeah.
when he said this, he just made a statement and that's what he felt because
Yeah.
in his past relationships, that's maybe what happened to him. I know Shaq has a crazy dating history though, so I
Yeah.
can't really use Shaq as a good example.
Looking at Shaq, right? Oftentimes for athletes, I think it's a bit different ball game, right? Because you have all these women throwing themselves at you. I'm not sure how Shaq's pool looks like, right? But I know he probably can pull just because of his past, and he's doing well, like way better than us, right?
I
He's
mean, he's a high valued man at the end of
high,
the day.
very high
He
value,
got
you
millions
know,
and millions of
and he's
dollars.
doing great in the business
Yeah.
ventures, right? So you can only imagine the type of women he has to deal with. So he has to vet them out, make sure that they're actually there for him. He's also been through a divorce, right? So those things kind of skew my idea about the things he says. So when I hear things like that, I'm mostly like, well, you've been around women you can't trust, right? Or and vice versa. Some part in a different voice, like some, not to make it gender specific, but that's your dating history. You've been around people you can't trust, and that's the pool you've chosen to be around, and that's the type of energy you're attracting. In my past, I've had that, right? I've had my partner use certain things against me or have said mean things that I've shared with them in confidence, and it felt terrible. But once I started dating in a different bubble or started putting certain boundaries down, that kind of stopped, right? And early on in this current relationship, we talked about that. She actually brought it up. She mentioned that we should never um, say anything out of anger, and we should always talk to each other in a respectful way, right? So that's a boundary you set and say, hey, you should never use anything I've said to you that's personal in a disrespectful way, even if you think it. Slow down, take your time, and speak to me with respect.
Yeah.
Right, every single time. So it's really setting the right boundaries, having that conversation early on. I don't know if Shaq is having these conversations with these women just because they may not stick around. They may not be serious. I've never really seen Shaq with a woman that he ended up marrying outside as his first wife or whatever he's been doing. So maybe he's not serious with these women.
The overarching point you really capitalize on is that it really comes down partner to partner.
Yeah.
Who you with. The right partner will not weaponize it against you.
Yeah, absolutely.
They will trust you. They will have your back through it all. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
But a little bit of a hot take.
Let's see.
I think at the end of the day, there are still gender roles in a relationship to an extent. And I feel like as a man, you can't let your insecurities show during those low times. I think this touches back on the point I made earlier. You can't let your insecurity show. It's all about how you react to those down times, those low life moments. And it's just how you navigate through it. I'm just being honest. When you go through those lowlights, it's coming back to how you react. If you react in a negative way, your partner is going to notice that.
Right.
Even guy or girl. I think that's very not gender specific.
Yeah.
But I think in the general, they will note that. But what is more gender specific now is as a man in a relationship, you have to always provide that reassuring confidence in the household.
Right.
Because you are leading that household in a way. You guys are co-leading it together.
Yeah.
But as a man, you also lead that. You can't have that set you back and fault you in a way that you just go off the rails completely. Because if you do, it comes back to what I said in the first episode. It's not about potential. It's all about patterns. They start seeing this pattern that this becomes a recurrent thing every 3 months that you're going through this and not reacting in a positive way. It starts to really start to show.
Does it come off as like a weakness? Do you feel like what in your example is it? Well, I'm the leader of the household, and these things that I've confided in you. Does that come off as weakness if when they're throwing it back in your face and you start acting up and you're more irritable because you're always thinking about it and it makes you a bit more insecure? Is it a sense of weakness that you're showing? And if she can, sniff that and pick that off of you, does that build some kind of tension between you and your partner? Or do you feel like they may not respect you as much?
If they're weaponized against you, you're gonna feel some type of way.
Yeah.
That's plain and simple. You're gonna feel some type of way to where you feel that insecurity. If you had it, even if it's 1%, now it's being poked and prodded more and more and becoming a bigger hole in your system.
Absolutely.
So it's just navigating that in the terms of it's not a weakness. Like, listen, we all go through life. Like I said, life's trials and tribulations. But it's all about how you react to those tribulations. Do you stay disciplined through it? Do you keep your head up? And that's the thing what Shaq was trying to get at. It's about how you react to the situations. yes, you should be able to have those conversations with your partner. If you don't think you can have conversations with your partner, I'm sorry, man, it's not the right
Yeah,
partner
yeah,
for
yeah,
you,
yeah, yeah.
because you're always gonna be treading on eggshells. Who
Yeah,
wants that for their whole life?
yeah,
I think you should be able to talk about things, but I
absolutely.
think it's all about how you say it, how you react to it,
Mm,
and deliver, and then also improve from whatever that situation is, and vice
yeah,
versa for your partner too. If they tell you that they're going through a tough time as well, and we're offering help, solution, support, even just being an ear to listen to, but
yeah,
we start seeing that trend every 3 months or whatever it is, you also will feel some type
yeah,
of
yeah,
way.
absolutely.
Not that we would weaponize it ever to throw it back, but it's like, hey, there reaches a point where enough is enough, right?
Mhm.
Like if you're going off the rails every 3 months and it's like becoming something that's just like becoming toxic, it's like, hey, like, are we gonna make a change or are we not?
Or we're not, yeah. And then, I mean, you know, I don't know if a lot of our listeners really study stoicism, but that's actually one of the principles. How to regulate and think through your emotions before you react,
Hmm.
and not letting it spew out and then overtake your actions.
Hmm.
Right. So, just speaking to that, uh, do you feel like you're ever pressured to do some things for Valentine's Day, more like a forced love? It might be superficial just
So
to get that beautiful scene or picture with those gifts that you may give someone, or vice versa. They may give you gifts and take you out. Do you
yeah.
feel like that's a forced thing, or is there a lot of pressure to make that happen?
No, I mean, I'll touch on it. I think Valentine's Day is a beautiful holiday. I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, it's a Hallmark holiday, this
Yeah.
and that." And a quote that I saw yesterday is, "Only broke men hate Valentine's Day," and I think it's kind of true, low
Yeah,
key.
I mean,
I think at the end of the day, it's all about the
man.
effort you put in to
Yeah.
that. It's just Valentine's Day is cool. You don't have to do anything on that day of too. You
Hmm.
could do it on the weekend.
Yeah,
It's just showing one day that you appreciate them. It's like another anniversary on the calendar.
absolutely.
At the end of the day, it's just like a day of love that you just show someone that you appreciate them. You
Yeah,
don't have to go all out. It's depending on your partner too. I know what you're
yeah.
gonna say is the second point too. It really depends on your partner. I know some partners
Mm,
get caught up in the social media world and keeping up with the Joneses, and they want to look at the
yeah,
things that people are doing to the left and the right. If that's your partner, then that's your partner. You
yeah,
could either choose to be that person that does all these extra things, or you could just be that partner that just does something so simple. And I'm telling you, man, you could do things so simple.
yeah.
Get her flowers, write a card. Card costs
Handwritten
$2,
card.
$6,
Yeah,
whatever it
yeah,
is.
yeah,
Writing it costs nothing. Just
yeah.
write something thoughtful and just give it to her. Like she'll appreciate that, depending on who your partner is.
No, I agree. I do think there's a difference in terms of partners when it comes to maybe a low maintenance partner. I mean, I care about Valentine's Day versus someone that is more high maintenance,
Hmm.
right? Me personally, I like the Valentine's Day, right? I think it's real dope to um, have one day where it's very intimate and you have that intention of just only being intimate, right? And
Hmm.
not intimate about like physically, but just thinking about the past year and or however long you guys have been together, and reflecting on how beautiful the relationship has turned, right?
Hmm.
If it's beautiful, but I also like giving gifts, right? So I'm a gift giver, and receiving them is cool too. Um, but just eating, I love to eat, right? And
It's another
they
excuse to
whip,
go out to a good dinner, I guess.
you know,
There's some Valentine's Day deals out there too. Look at
not
Groupon or
even the
whatever.
deals, but for some reason during those holidays they whip out the best dishes, like
Yeah,
the real cool dishes, and
yeah, man.
they taste really good. So I love to eat, so that's really why I'm excited about this. Like these holidays, I got go in, they got
Excuse.
some different. But there's fruity drinks and stuff like that, and I'll boss up. I'll get one of those fruity,
Hey,
fruity
man.
drinks
I
and
don't
drink
blame
it
you. They
down.
mad tasty.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, so all of that stuff. She's enjoying her time, I'm enjoying my time.
Mhm.
And it's really just focusing on the two. Obviously, sometimes people will drop a bag on that day, but to your point, it shouldn't really be about that.
Mhm.
It really should be about the intention of the day,
Yeah,
for
no,
sure.
100%.
Yeah.
All right. Let's jump into quote of the day.
Quote of the day. All right.
Quote of the day. So my quote of the day for this week, or in general, is something that I believe in. Is like, some things
Mm.
don't need prayer; they need discipline.
Mm.
I'm a big preacher of discipline.
Okay.
The biggest preacher. I mean, I took a lot of teachings from like David Goggins, who's like a
Right.
discipline king. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
a lot of these guys, man. I don't know how to phrase this any better way. That like discipline is the most valuable skill you can learn,
Yeah.
but it's something you really have to work on. It's like a muscle,
Discipline. Yeah. Yeah.
dude. Because when you
The
go
power
through
of
some
habits. Yeah.
exactly, because you go through some trying times in life, positives, negatives, and all.
Absolutely.
It's just, can you stay disciplined to show up every single day,
Mhm.
whether physically, mentally, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like, control the things you can control. It ties back to stoicism.
Yeah.
Control the things you can control. There's a lot of things out of your control. Let them be.
Let
Let them
them
be
be.
water under the bridge.
Right.
You
Don't
can only
focus
keep
on it.
pushing forward.
Right.
And I know so many people that just tend to crumble when things get bad. And that's something that I've always taught everyone.
Yeah.
Is like, The reason why
Stay
I've
cool
always
through the
preached
fire.
the gym, I know people always look at me like, "Why do you
Yeah,
preach so hard about it?" It's because it's the easiest way to learn that concept of
absolutely.
just showing up every day
Yeah.
and choosing to improve yourself
It
every day.
teaches you everything. Not only can you work on your body, you
Mhm,
can work on your footwork if you need to. You can work on your athleticism,
mhm.
and you can sharpen your mind through the cardio that you're doing or whatever exercise you're doing. Right?
It comes
Um,
back to sorry
yeah.
to interrupt, it comes back to
No,
even
you're
the
good.
half marathon training.
Yeah.
Yo, I didn't wanna run a half
Me-
marathon, brother.
the mental
It was
stability you have to finish a marathon or half
yeah,
or any running race
yeah.
is so beautiful.
You just you
Yeah.
it's you versus you
Yeah,
in
yeah,
those moments,
absolutely.
and that's, like, the one thing that I
Quieting
like
your
about the
mind.
beauty. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I like the beauty of running even in general. It's just you versus you. It's your
Yeah.
2 feet. You walked your whole life, you
Mm.
ran your whole life. Now you're just going for an X amount of distance, and
Right.
13 is nothing. I got my friend Paul, who we both know.
100 miles.
Shout out to my boy
Yeah.
Paul. He be running 100 miles.
100
The
miles
amount
is
of
crazy.
relentless determination and discipline he needs to have in his
It's
goals
crazy.
is insane. That's
Yeah.
something that I can't wait for him to join us on one of these episodes so we can
Yeah.
pick his brain about it. But discipline just goes to so many levels, and I think a lot of people just lack working that muscle. And if there's
Mm.
one thing I encourage you guys is just start.
Yeah.
Start working on strengthening that muscle.
Dope. No, I definitely agree. I definitely got to get back in the gym, so maybe I can that discipline can rub off on me a little bit.
But you keep it outside the gym too. You still show up
Yeah,
at work. You still show up in every other
absolutely.
way.
Definitely one of the habits I want to pick up is the gym, but
Mhm,
I do try to, as I mentioned last week, come as my best self when
mhm,
everything I want to do.
mhm,
And going to my quote of the day, my quote of the day is I invite obstacles into my life as practice rounds to greatness, right? And really segueing into your conversation, because David Goggins is a big influence for discipline, but I love to challenge myself, right? I'm always looking for a new challenge, and I feel like if I'm not uncomfortable in my life, I don't feel like I'm being challenged. And I'm not just looking for my life to be miserable. I'm not speaking to that. I'm speaking to always having something to work on, right? Always have something to look forward to as, hey, this is a new venture that I know is going to improve me, right? And um, thank God that I've been doing that because I've seen the levels of places that it's brought me to, right? And it's always keeping me prepared for a new opportunity. It's so strange that the more work I put into something, the opportunity comes up. It's so strange how when I'm done with a certain task, I immediately can use it, right?
mhm.
For example, I've been talking to myself about I talk to myself a lot, not to, to look crazy or
Nah,
anything.
we all do.
And
The inner
it's a good
monologue is
practice to
cool.
do. They always say like,
Yeah,
people that talk to themselves are smarter, right? But
of
I don't
course.
know if I'm smart about. But I talk to myself a lot, and I told myself that I needed to work on my craft and more technical skills, right? Because I work as a data scientist, so I thought maybe I should pick up a new language. And I was thinking about doing this on my own, and I've been manifesting and I've been writing it down, and lo and behold my job came up with this program of me learning coding, and into the language that I was actually thinking about, right? And it just is always puts me in awe when I manifest these things and I start looking up and I put the work in, I start making connections and figuring out how I should learn these things, and it just pops up, right?
Mhm,
So always being prepared and always thinking of more improvements, because when I'm done with that program, I can apply it to real world situations, right? I
mhm,
can always code at work. I can get into bigger projects, and that's really what I want to do. I want to start touching bigger projects at work, because that's where I really see the talent goes. If
mhm,
you know how to do more at work, they'll put you in different portfolios, and I want to start working in bigger portfolios for sure.
mhm.
So just thinking in that and being in a more current space. Something that I always tell people is that if you're setting a goal,
Mhm,
envision yourself in that place, and if you can't envision yourself, find someone that is in the place that you want to be in, and kind of model yourself into that person,
mhm,
right? And once you can start seeing yourself in that place, then you'll be able to achieve it, right? And you
mhm,
just keep working towards it.
mhm.
But I know that we're headed towards the end of the podcast, and I want to say thank you guys for listening. This has been Modern Stoic Podcast. Me, myself, Kobe Viney, and our host, Anoop Johnson. I'll pass the mic to Anoop to see if he wants to say anything, but it's been a pleasure talking to you guys, and see you in the next episode.